I've got some logs back there that need to be cut to stove length, and then maybe I can split them and get them into the wood rack over there. But I don't have a way to really hold it down, so I need to build a sawbuck, and that's what all of this scrap lumber is going to become. In order to do that, we've got to cut 3 4-foot, actually it's 6 4-foot long sections of 2x4, and we'll put bolts through them to make a scissor. And then lastly, we'll cut some 4-foot lengths to lay in there to keep the scissor from popping open too far. And that will ensure that we have the right shape, also the right spacing between the X's that are going to be down there. So here we go. The first thing we'll do is measure these and mark off 4 feet, and then we'll cut them into 4-foot lengths. Now these are 10 foot, these two pressure treated are 10 foot long, so there'll be a 2-foot cutoff on the end. This is 8 feet and this is 8 feet. So I'll use this one and these two as the legs, and then I need 4 4-foot long pieces. Here's 2 of them. And then here's 2 more. Even with those cutouts, they'll be just fine. So at measuring, put the measuring tape down at the end there. We want to measure at 48. And then we also want to strike a line there so we know where to cut. Use this square. The square is really nice for this purpose. All right, there we go. And then we'll measure to 8 feet. Always measure from the same end, and always use the same measuring tape. That way you know you get the same measurement every time you measure. So now it's time to cut. And I drew these lines at exactly the distance that I wanted. So if I were to cut this on this side of the line, then this would be 48 inches long. But then this one would be short by the length of the saw blade. Now, for this application, it doesn't really matter. Let's just be honest. But just to be nice, I'm going to cut it in the middle of this one. And that way I'm going to give a little bit of room back to the end. And that way we should be fine for both 4-foot or all the 4-foot sections that we've marked so far. This is a really handy tool. This is a DeWalt battery-powered saw. It's got a small blade there. It's like an 8-inch blade, but it's more than adequate for cutting these boards when you're doing a little job like this and you don't have to bring electric power to wherever you are. When you're cutting with these, the cutting, when it's at 90 degrees like this, you can see there's a mark there. It says 0, and that mark is the mark that's going to cut on the line. So you want to try and line it up and keep it tracking to that line, and that will keep you where you want to go. And we'll cut this guy. This one is an 8-foot board, and a lot of times an 8-foot board isn't 8 feet. A lot of times it'll be a little bit longer than that out of the mill, so you'd have to get it to the right length. Turns out this one happens to be 8 feet on the nose, so we're going to use this as is, and we'll just cut it right in half. Cool. The only thing left to do now is to cut this guy into a 4-foot section, and then we'll have all the pieces that we need to put this wood jack together. All right, so the next step here is to get these boards lined up so that we can put a hole through them, and then we can put a bolt in to make the X's. I'm going to have 3 X's at the end of this. And what those will do is sit on the ground and prop up the lumber, prop up the log on the top. Sorry about the change in lighting and location, but the camera was overheating, so I had to move it. Anyway, what we've got to do next is to drill some holes. And the bolts that we're going to use are 3.5 inches long. They will go all the way through 2 boards. And the 2 boards are about 3 inches in thickness when laid side by side. So a 2x4 started out life as a 2x4. And in fact, this is a rough cut board, and this is in fact 2 inches by 4 inches. And then when this goes through the finishing mill, it will get taken down to a smaller dimension. So 1.5 inches, 1 5/8, you know, in the short direction, and then 3 and change in the longer dimension. So 2x4, they're talking about what does it look like when it comes out of the sawmill before it goes to be finished. So this is a true 2x4. This is what you'd buy in the store as a 2x4, and it's actually a little bit smaller. Anyway, we've got to get a hole all the way through these 2 boards. And the hole ideally would be positioned in the center and at 2 feet from an end. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure 2 feet and then put the hole in the middle and then just right down through. Now I'll do this through both boards at the same time. And the reason I do that is to make sure that the drill will go straight through, and no matter, it might move a little bit side to side, that's okay, because the bolt will be able to go through the 2 pieces of wood. So wherever my measuring device went, oh yeah, I should open my eyes. Here we go. And we need to go 2 feet. It's here. And then we'll do the same for all these. One more. Okay. Then we want to measure to the middle. So this dimension across is a little bit less than 3.5. So I need to be 1 3/4 inches and a little bit more. So it's 1 inch and 3 3/8 is the distance from here, or to across this one here. So 1.5 inches plus 3/16 is 1.5 inches. 3/16 is somewhere around there, so a little bit more, right? So this hole is going to be there. This one, it's a little bit bigger. So this is 3.5, this one here. So 1 3/4 inches will be the dimension here. This is right there. And then this will be the same. Right. 1 3/4 inches right there. Great. So this will put these holes in the center of the board, and that will allow everything to fold nicely. Do this one first. I want to make sure the ends are lined up. So give them a peek and feel with your fingers. Get them positioned on top of each other, and then we'll just drill straight through. And we can test with one of these, see if it'll go through. Yep, all the way down. And because this is a bolt, lag bolt here, it's got a little bit of a square end on it. And what that will do is when we get it into the wood, we can hit it with a hammer, and that's going to secure it into the wood so we can put a nut on the other side. This is being made out of leftover parts. So in this case, I have a washer. I have a nut. I'll put that on there. Doesn't have to be too tight. Just want to make sure that it will work as a scissor. There we go. So that right there is number one. We'll go and make the other ones now. You might choose to use a lock washer or a lock nut or some type of secure item. Again, I'm using scraps here. I had lock washers for the other two. This one here happens to have a built-in washer with a little bit of a flange on it, and the flange has some teeth. So the idea here is that it will bite onto the washer. So we'll just use that washer and we'll tighten this down. It's not going to be perfect, I know. If you're looking for something a little bit more fancy, get yourself some like a nylon washer that's built into the nut. Those are great. Or a split ring washer. Those work also really well for making sure that things stay secure. So the question is, will it scissor? Yes, it will, which is great. So what we're going to do next is we're going to put all these three in a line, get them to the position that I want in terms of cutting wood. And then what we'll do is we will attach underneath support boards that will go all the way across all three. What that's going to do, it's going to prevent the scissor from opening any more than that, and it will provide some horizontal strength across the jab. All right, so I've finished all of the X's here, the cross pieces, and now I've got to put in the supports, and the supports will prevent the two things from happening. One, it'll prevent the sawhorse here from ticking back and forth when we're using it, but also it's going to prevent the X's from opening too far when we open them. The idea here is that I should be able to close the whole thing up, set it against the wall, put it away, and then take it out, open it when I need it. So I have taken these X's and I've opened them up as far as I want, and then lined them up on the ground, the feet on the ground, so I know that they're all open to the same amount. I've spread it apart here, and then I'll take one of these right here, and I will attach it. Now these are 4 feet long, but because I'm recycling, this end is cut off. So it's going to end up being a little bit short than 4 feet on one end. I don't need both ends. I don't need both of the bays to be the same length. They just need to be able to hold the wood. Ultimately, I'll be cutting wood in between the two sides, so it should be fine in the end. We do want enough room to fit the saw in the middle, so 2 feet should be plenty of space in between, even if it's a little bit short. So we'll go for that. I'm using 3 inch screws here. Remember, this is actually 2 inches because it's a 2x4 and it's rough, so it's 2 inches. So an inch to 20, and of course, it's going to embed itself into the wood a little bit as we go along. There we go. So with those boards in place, the scissor can't open more than, than those boards will allow. And then we can close the thing right up and we can put it away for when I'm not using it. And there you go. The last thing to do here, which I probably should do now, is to put these bottom pieces on there just to give it some side-to-side stability. And then once we're done with that, the project is finished. There we go. I need two more screws to finish it up, but that's good enough. If we open it up, then delicious slivers. They'll just open up until I need it to the right size. I can put logs in here, cut them with the saw. These are sacrificial, so these will get changed out over time because the saw is going to hit them and so on, and that's okay. Otherwise, you know, I'm pretty pleased with this. Total cost, $0, which I like very much. And then we can go and tackle that pile of wood over there. Not today. Sun's going down.